to learn by doing certain things and bring about that improvement. Now, what is that improvement would mean? Improvement does not mean necessarily in terms of profit, but improvement in terms of reducing unnecessary wastage. Toyota introduced three very interesting terms: Mura, Muri, and Muda. These are the three terms which would mean overburden in production, inconsistency in production, Muda, wastage in production. It brought about a concept of learning by doing to totally remove overburden. What is overburden? Unwanted stress in production flows. It could be in terms of movement, it could be in terms of consuming your energy, very important aspect for environment today. It could be in terms of trying to avoid non-value adding activities. Then inconsistency. The entire production flow was brought to about a consistency. The word inconsistency would mean reworking, spoilage, wastage and all. And finally, the muda. In any production flow, there are various sources where wastage takes place. Wastage of human resources time, wastage of material, wastage of processes, and therefore polluting the environments. Now, these brought about revolutionary change in Toyota to make the company as one of the leading companies. This perhaps is, it's still continuous. It's not an end, it's a philosophy. Kaizen is not an end. Muda is not an end. It's a continuous process. So therefore, the learning by doing is a continuous process. That would require an understanding of your environments. That would require non-value adding human activities. Every human activity should contribute to the sustainability of human being. Living well is the ultimate goal of all human beings. So if you have a concept of identifying non-value adding activities, I do not know about the education. I'm talking from a purely a management point of view. If education can take into its fold the concept to be delivered to the students by the teachers to identify which are non-value adding aspects in a country, in a society, I think it will add to sustainability. We have to define sustainability in terms of environment, in terms of health, in terms of finance, so many aspects. But how do you teach? These are some of my observations on education. I would request to hear from the experts.
Jagannathan and Anu also. Thank you for your highly interesting speeches. Right now I feel a bit puzzled because I listened to you carefully and I'm just having questions in my mind. What will be the solution? What can we do about it? Yesterday, Joachim talked about the tipping point in the change of our mindset in regarding sustainable development. And well, we don't have very many answers yet, but we are here together to work forward on these topics, and it's maybe this is the only thing we can do it to discuss these matters together, we individuals. So the governments are high above us, it's official, but this informal, unofficial meeting and discussion is so important. Yeah, I have a lot of questions here on my paper that I wrote down. For whom is sustainability? Good question. We privileged people, we sit here and talk about it. What do the poor people talk about? They don't talk about sustainable development. Not at all. They talk about where can I find my next portion or a piece of bread. I don't know any answer to this question. Certainly education is one key to solving these problems, but it will take so much time. The sustainability study should be integrated in all the other studies. Here actually, Anu, you talked about studies at Turku University, sustainable development studies for the students, and I'm personally not very much involved in this topic, but that's why I would like to ask our Kaisa and our Telle. Where is Telle? Can you give some examples of what we do? We do a lot. It's in our strategy. It's in our corporate social responsibility goals to make our students and the personnel aware of sustainable development, and really on a personal level we all should think about what we can do for it. So Kaisa, would you like to start? Well, I know we have one specific degree program for sustainable development at our university, if I remember right. Kestävä kehitys.
Sekin pistettiin kyllä kumoon tässä hiljattain.
Do we still have it? I hope so.
Okay. It's we can check it later, but it's more the technology.
It's from the technological point of view, but
yeah.
it doesn't help much that we
Yeah.
only talk about
Because
it.
it's part of our engineering studies nowadays, so that they have this technical point of view, how to clear the water and how to pour air and so on.
Of course, we have to know much about the technology, but still, it's the mindset. It's always, it's just the only thing that matters first. How do we change the mindset? Well, Kaisa, you know something about our studies in sustainable development in our degree program in business.
Shortly. I really envy Turku University because you have in strategic level you have requirements that in University of Turku
you have requirements from the strategic level that students must have this opportunity to become familiar with responsible business and sustainability. But unfortunately, if I'm honest, in our University of Applied Sciences, it depends on the people, it depends on the teachers who want to teach this topic. And our managers and directors, I think that they have lost the idea that we should really integrate sustainability in our curriculum. So it depends on the teachers and it depends on the research projects what we have, and then we can integrate and take students involved and they can participate in different research projects, and then in that way they learn about the sustainability.
Okay, in India
But
what
if-
is happening is that In lot of master's programs, you can say graduate programs, we have now courses coming up on sustainable development. So they have MBA programs on sustainable development. That's a good beginning has been done by some premier institutions. But it has not percolated to the level of undergraduate studies. That is the demand of the time. So having said that, some of the questions raised by the panelists, whether by Professor Jagannathan or whether Haley, I have some of the answers. It is because these young minds or these young faculties who can answer to these questions, and which has already happened, which is recorded in the literature even. All of you know the Walmart story. What happened is that some of they had lot of, because when they expanded their business, when they entered many of the countries like emerging nations like Brazil, and when they operate in Canada, they have a lot of difficulties in operating because the massive scale they operate. In Canada, what happened due to weather conditions like your country, a lot of time they're snow covered, so they have to, those huge lorries used to consume a lot of, gasoline and other petroleum product, because all the time the ignition has to be on, whether they're driving or not driving. Even drivers while sleeping also they have to switch on the ignition. So that consumes a lot of carbon emission. So students like you with their respectable professors, so they took it as a project to Walmart and they gave them a solution. Instead of the whole engine, let us develop one motor only, which can be fitted into the cabin, truck cabin, where the driver can easily lay. When after 8-10 hours driving, he can rest for another 8 hours coolly by only switching on his cabin. There's no necessity for switching on the whole ignition of that vehicle. That's a big lorry. So these are the things you have to innovate. You have to think beyond your classroom curriculums. Then we have solutions. In India, one company is also doing very fine. That is Indian Tobacco Company, ITC, where you have raised a lot of social issues. They have that e-Chopal kind of a scheme where they are going to the villages. They are talking to the people, their local requirements, and they are coming out of that, what kind of solutions they have. They are not doing on the paper. Their real sense they have been doing for. It's very well documented. Even in the what I was talking to you in the beginning, that that's Indian primitive society also since civilization, thousands of years. The tribal people, they have very well documented tribal literature is there, where everything they worship, all kinds of natural resources they used to worship. Everywhere you'll find there is a some stone. It is being laid just beneath a tree, and there are a lot of kind of worshipping is there. This symbolizes a lot of things. Recently, one good example happened. People are now, there's no concern for environment. They just go on a cutting of these trees. Okay. In Bihar, it so happened that when people are fed up, this tree cutting is not being anyway contained, whether you apply police force or a lot of things. Then one NGO came out with some students, they have an innovative idea. What they did is that in every tree, they just carve out a small person and put a deity. So in our Hinduism, we have 33 crores of deities. So they put one deity in each tree. So naturally, whoever is going to cut the tree, he just came back. So that way also a lot of trees are saved. So these kind of practices, you have to innovate. So how to sustain the environment? That is my take. Yeah, Anu, you have something?
Yeah.
Jagannathan for raising the macroeconomic issues, and really important to think about the society level impacts of each business, and is it really value adding for society as a whole. And governments, some people don't like the word government, but I think governments actually us, and we are democracies, and we are citizens as voters, in addition to being citizens as like private persons in the private markets. And we can decide in democracy which is the value adding for society as a whole. For example, in Finland, we're discussing the fur production business. Some people think that we shouldn't have this at all because the negative impacts are larger than the positive ones. And similar with nuclear energy, some people think that this might be, even though it's a lot of jobs and energy, it's not good for society in long term and future generations as a whole. And several fields of business like the tobacco, what to do with it. In Finland, we're limiting tobacco marketing really strictly, and smoking also. Try to abolish the whole thing by 2030 or what is a year. So Also, business students need to have these macro views, and I have to criticize our unit for abolishing economics as a minor topic in the business school. And we don't anymore have this economics minor, which is important for understanding the macro and micro level connections and the whole role of society in making economy more sustainable. So I don't think our unit is perfect either, guys.
Okay, thank you for very interesting talk and the long perspective from the history and also the Indian sort of perspective, very nicely put. Just two things. I mean, I think one maybe difference between India and Finland is the place of sustainability issues and topics in primary education curricula. So I think that is overall very, very important, so that kindergarten and primary school and secondary school curriculum is changed. Unless you do that, it's very difficult to influence the people later on in the bachelor level and so on. So as a sort of societal level, I mean, that is important change that would need to be happening. But then just a minor observation from our own course, where we have mid-career part-time MBA students, and we started this sustainable growth course. As a one solution, what I noticed that, I mean, they were surprisingly interested in discussing the sustainability issues, even on their free time in the evening through Skype. We had like 15 people discussing through Skype, and they were at homes. And I could interpret that kind of eagerness to want to discuss the sustainability issues, and in a way larger than life questions, as a mid-career people's seeking some higher purpose in life, and especially in the wealthy countries, that they are a little bit like, okay, what should I commit myself to? And that we can, in a way, we could, as sustainability advocates, we could tap into that kind of momentum. But on the other hand, also I noticed that people who are working in big corporations, international corporations, that they have seen the momentum rising in terms of sustainability issues. So there is also these business drivers. But I think this first one is very interesting for us as a motivation to use.
Some quick questions, maybe one or two. So because we'll have to start the next session also. I'm holding somebody on Skype also, he's waiting. Because this is a sleeping time, so we have to start on time. Maybe quick questions, one or two. I'm looking forward to the students. Yeah.
I can give a comment. I don't have a
Okay, yeah,
question,
comment.
but
Just pass on here, and you'll pass it in.
there was on your speeches that there are a lot of large amount of problems, and those problems are really difficult to solve. But what we've been thinking is, for example, this conference and this winter school here have been a great place where we can discuss about these things. And we talked yesterday that now when we are here, we really discuss together about the problems of India. And without this seminar or without this kind of events, that kind of communication does not happen. So maybe what Anu said, that how to, instead of knowing the problems, how to solve the problems, there maybe should be more communications instead of just reading to the exams. So in my point of view, it's very important.
Okay, you also.
Personally, I think that if the sustainable topic comes when you are in university, it's too late. Then comes solutions. Then you think how this should be solved. But I think it should be come to aware much earlier.
Point that I want to end up with. You know, one of the challenges of bringing sustainability in a well-entrenched education system like India, which hasn't really understood sustainability till date. People from countries like Finland and others who have done some amount of work on sustainability can interact. But how do we really go ahead with an effective communication on sustainability? Because you can't have a sequential factor. You can't close down today's university. It will be totally difficult. How do we do? Monash University in Australia has introduced and installed an international portal through which the education on sustainability development is screened throughout the world. The benefit of technology, the digital technology, could be used to create virtual classrooms on sustainability as an additional paper to all the students anywhere in the world. If that a policy can come, Dr. Rabi Ray can teach for the entire Europe, sitting in this room. I really welcome, in fact, that was my thoughts, that the communication is very vital. Otherwise, if you're trying to bring about sustainability programs through an incremental development, then you are lost. You need a revolutionary push. And that is possible through this communication system of having a permanent international portal where people in sustainability can start interacting. No teacher is yet perfect on sustainability, as they can say. So look, the economics is being removed from commerce. Same is with University of Delhi.
Really?
Yeah. They've reduced the intensity of economics without knowing what is economics. I mean, to remove economics from a thinking process is not only educationally unethical, impractical.
Sir, we are trying to rectify that again.
He confirms what I said because I am out from the system. He is in the system.
So it's a last point.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir, for your kind interventions. One thing is, as I am telling you yesterday, that we are one of the signatories, one of the first signatories to this SDGs 2030, the targets. So these 17 goals, in order to achieve those 17 goals, the government of India, or particularly our Prime Minister, he has come out with so many schemes, and it's all people-centric for the development. So removal of inequality, removal of poverty. So yesterday also you have seen from the keynote address, we have a long list of schemes. And it's not, it takes time to implement those schemes. So we are quite optimistic. And at the same time also, another thing is happening is a very good development. New education policy is coming. So we are a signatory, just see the background. We are signatories to this SDGs, new education policies coming. So I am quite optimistic that these SDGs goals will also be incorporated in the education policy, new education policy. So then we'll have this sustainable development in the classroom in the real sense. Thank you all for your kind presence, and particularly I would extend a very grateful gratitude to Dr. Jagannathan, Anu, and Haley. So who have been very kind to us throughout, and all your presence also since morning, because yesterday also we closed around 7:30, and again coming back at 8:30 is quite hectic, and it is also not reflected on your faces. So a good round of applause for all of you. Thank you very much. This has been sustainable, and this is the 4th day. We started on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and this is Tuesday. So great effort. Thank you all. Well, there's no break. Quickly, we are switching over to the round table. Okay. I also request again Dr. Jagannathan to join us. And one of our panelists, he is, please. If you have some time. Yeah. Thanks.
May I request Dr. Kusha to present the bouquet to Professor Anu?
Sorry.
Again, I request our principal, sir. Very sorry.
Yeah, one group photo, please. Anu, this session. Thank you.
I'm really privileged to welcome the distinguished gathering for the round table.
अच्छा पहले उनको ऑनलाइन ले आओ फिर आप स्टार्ट करो.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Good morning, sir.
Good night.
How are you? Yes.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all of us are visible.
Yes, indeed, you are. Extremely well.
Are we audible?
Yeah. You start.
Absolutely.
So now we are starting with the session. Yeah.
Volume, yes.
Yeah.
I am really privileged to welcome the distinguished gathering for the round table. The topic for the round table is role of institutional mechanism in promoting sustainable development. I am immensely pleased to welcome Professor Payal Magu, Principal Shahid Rajguru College of Applied Sciences, University of Delhi. She will be chairing this session. She is also the Joint Dean Academic Activities and Projects, University of Delhi. Her other responsibilities include Visitors Nominee at Central University of Sikkim and at Haryana Central University, Member Standing Committee under the Ministry of HRD, Member of the Committee for the Purpose of Control and Supervision of Experiments on Animals under the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. She has to her credit many books and papers in referred journals. Apart from this, she is also involved in campaign against female feticide with various social organizations and delivered talks on gender sensitization and gender issues in Calcutta University. May I request Principal Sir to welcome her with a bouquet and memento. Sir, very brief. Yeah. Professor John from USA. He is a professor of management in the College of Management with a courtesy appointment in international relations at the Georgia Tech Sam Nunn School of International Affairs. He has authored many books and published articles in many journals. He is the recipient of the State of Georgia Convener 2009 International Award in International Business Education. Sir, we welcome you. I extend my warm welcome to you.
Virtual bouquet.
And a virtual
for you.
Yeah. And a bouquet and a memento for
you
you, sir.
received. Okay, thank you. Big round of applause. Thank you.
India. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has an international experience of working on behalf of European Union and World Bank in reviewing projects implemented in the areas like food security, primary education, health and sanitation, etc. Besides this, he has to his credit the financial review of the World Bank assisted projects in India and also the conducted financial audits of many large Indian corporates. May I request Dr. Alka Ma'am, convener of IQAC, to welcome him with a bouquet and memento. Thank you, ma'am. Our next distinguished speaker, Professor Teli Tauminen from Turku University of Applied Sciences, Finland. She has been a senior lecturer in the tourism management at the Turku University of Applied Sciences since 2001. Her R&D interests include destination management and development, consumer behavior of wellness tourists. She is content manager of the ongoing projects Footprints of Defense in the archipelago and productizing the Finnish lifestyle. She is a core team member of the EU Finance Projects Health and Well-being, a tourism destination. Teli Tauminen is actively involved in many tourism networks. It's a pleasure, ma'am. May I request Principal Sir to welcome her with a bouquet. And also Professor Jagannathan from, I think, yeah, he's
From Delhi.
very sorry.
We can start.
Last but not the least, I also invite our Principal Sir, Dr. Ravi Narayankar, to join the deliberations and start the round table. A warm welcome to all of you.
Inviting me to chair this session, I would request Professor John to start with the deliberations.
Very well. It's a pleasure to join you It is not very late, as I'm in the habit of making it a late night. I see I'm missing the bouquet of flowers, and I'm very sorry about that. Let me begin by expressing my thanks to the University of Delhi and the Shanghai College, particularly for those members of the faculty who joined us last December in Atlanta for the 5th annual Multinational Enterprise and Sustainable Conference. I'm grateful to them and for their presence, contribution, hopefully resulting in a special issue and another edited book in the long series we have published since 2006. As I understand it, the topic at hand is the role of institutional mechanisms in promoting sustainable development. So I would like to kind of focus on perhaps 5 different kinds of institutional mechanisms. Clearly, my list is far from exhaustive. It is just an illustrative description of what can be done in the promotion of the 2015 United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. First, let me make some general remark that in creating institutional mechanisms whose purpose is to track, enforce perhaps, and that's a strong word, but certainly monitor and encourage the implementation at the local, regional, national, and international level of the Sustainable Development Goals, the approach that has generally been taken by, excuse me here, by United Nations member states